So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Serena Ding. I am part of the Senior Advisory Committee for the 2022 Social Impact Investment and Sustainability Conference, SDG and Carbon Neutrality Youth Ambassador Program. I'm very honored to be the host for this amazing panel tonight. We have a great discussion and great panelists lined up for all of you today. And just to begin, I want to play a video message from a special guest and a big supporter of this event, Ban Ki-moon, who is the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations from January 2007 to December 2016. He is a career diplomat in South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in the United Nations. And as the 8th Secretary General, his priorities were to mobilize world leaders around a set of new global challenges, from climate change and economic upheaval to pandemics and increasing pressures involving food, energy, and water. But even more important than everything that he was able to accomplish during his tenure as the Secretary General of the United Nations is his support for young leaders, is his continuing support for young leaders. He currently serves as the co-chair for the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens, which seeks to empower youth and women in particular to become active global citizens in creating a sustainable future for all. In addition, he currently holds another over 20 positions, including the presidency and the chairmanship of the Global Green Growth Institute and chairmanships of the Global Commission on Adaptation, the Ethics Commission of the International Olympic Committee, and the BOAO Forum in Asia. So without further ado, he couldn't join us live today, but he did leave us a message that he asked me to play for all of you.
For your warm introduction, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, young leaders and global citizens, I'm honored to speak to you today as part of this UN SDG Carbon Neutrality Initiative and Youth Leadership side event here at the Social Impact Investment and Sustainability Conference 2022, SIIS 2022. My special gratitude goes to the Social Impact Investment and Procurement Foundation, SIIP, and the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, UNITAR, for co-launching this impressive initiative to cultivate and empower future SDG youth leaders. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, young leaders and global citizens, I firmly believe that dynamic young leaders like you, committed to sustainability, ESG, and carbon neutrality are absolutely critical in both persevering over the global challenges we now face and forging a brighter future underpinned with the sustainability and empowerment. The understanding stems from my time serving as UN Secretary General, where I saw firsthand how young global leaders all around the world are essential to persevering over local, national, and international crises. And strong youth voices are also indispensable to the UN-led partnership efforts of the international community. These include fighting pandemics, tackling climate change, achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and building peace and resolving conflicts. Global citizenship is an important concept that can serve as a unique tool to help solve some of our most pressing challenges and help us reach our global goals. The global citizens identify themselves not as a member of a nation, but as a member of humanity more largely. They are tolerant of other people and cultures. They fight for the protection of our planet and guided by ESG approaches in business. They are committed to servicing and helping others, including refugees and immigrants. They build bridges rather than construct walls. They look beyond the narrow prism of national and personal interest and work for a better world and where no one is left behind. And to establish long-term solutions, we need inclusive and participatory action from young global citizens as an essential ingredient to catalyze global partnership. So for these reasons, I have been trying my best to help elevate global citizenship as a driving vision for young people around the world, including through the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens in Vienna, Austria. In this connection, I urge all of you to focus on enhancing your actions in pursuit of the four capabilities of leadership, practice, innovation, and collaboration with a view towards helping achieve the UN global goals. Indeed, everyone has a moral responsibility to act wherever they may be. And we need to see these ideals in greater frequency at the local, national, and global levels. The challenges we face are unprecedented. Our response, underpinned with the global citizenship action and sustainability, must be equally unprecedented. I thank you for your critical efforts in this regard.
Thank you, Ban Ki-moon, for leaving us with that message. And so now, before we get into the main panel portion, just a few housekeeping reminders. I do believe everyone, except for the panelists, are muted. You will have an opportunity at the end to be able to ask questions. So you can put your questions in the chat at any time. Or at the very end, we will allow people to raise their hand, and then I will request you to unmute. Okay. And lastly, one last thing, I would like to thank all of the co-organizing organizations that made this event possible, including the Social Impact and Investment Procurement Foundation, the Youth Entrepreneurship and Finance Association, Student Port, and many, many others. Without their support, we would not have been able to host this event. So I'm very grateful for all that you guys have done. Okay, and now without further ado, I would like to welcome our brilliant panelists for today and have each of you give like a 1 to 2 minute brief introduction on your background in ESG or sustainability. Meredith, would you like to start first?
Sure, and thank you so much, Serena, for inviting me, and thank you everyone who's on tonight or will be viewing this at another time. I couldn't agree with the former Secretary General Moore in his beliefs that your voices, youth voices, are really critical to the local and international sustainability community. So thank you so much for your interest, and thank you, Serena, and others for your leadership. I come to this with a background in labor economics and labor relations. I have spent years in the U.S. Labor movement, both in the sort of organizing and collective bargaining and the policy level. I've also worked in federal government as a political appointee and in state government. So I've worked on many of these issues at different levels, as many of you will throughout your career. I have worked with investment funds, making sure that the investments are there to provide and meet the benefit obligations. You know that these are pension funds and retirement funds, hard-earned savings and wages of workers. And depending on them for both healthcare and for pensions. And I've worked in funds ranging from $26 to $61 billion, most recently at the UAW Retiree Medical Benefits Trust. And most of my work in ESG in that capacity with funds has been to what we call meet with companies and engage with companies to use our investment ownership to press them through our ownership to really implement the kinds of ESG standards that we'll be talking about today, policies and practice. Currently, I sit on the Global Reporting Initiative Board, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'm also on the Investment Integration Project, which is called TIP. Many of you would be very interested in it. It looks at system-level investing and impact. And I'm also the chair of our local community college Women's Council. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Meredith, for introducing yourself. Justin, would you like to go next?
Happy to. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you all. My name is Justin Culla. I'm a partner at a firm called TCP Group. We are a lower mid-market private equity firm based in New York. We manage a little over $2 billion of capital, and I lead our impact investing fund strategy along with ESG across our firm-wide portfolio of 30 companies. For us, impact and ESG are distinct practices. ESG is a toolkit for all businesses to manage risk and take into consideration the full range of stakeholders that affect a business: management, employees, partner suppliers, customers, communities, the environment, investors. And impact investing for us is where the world positive value is delivered via product or service to an underserved, marginalized, discriminated, disadvantaged end customer, aligned to a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal and with measurable outcomes attached. And so, very simply, ESG for us is how businesses act, and impact is what they give to the world. We are one of the first lower mid-market private equity firms in the US to have launched a dedicated impact fund strategy. And we've taken great care to figure out how to best apply that. So it's really a toolkit for creating value and for noticing value, and that we can be a model for other firms as more and more capital comes into the space to understand how to best practice impact and to prove to capital that that impact is the best place for their money, because there is growing secular demand for all the things that we focus on. For our impact fund, we focus in two main areas, what we believe are two of the big problems of our time. The first is what we call the arc of human opportunity, which is a combination between education, employment, and financial inclusion. It's a simple idea. People get an education so they can get a good job, and they get a good job so they can have a financially secure and stable future. And we know this is an important area, not only in the US, but around the world, because not only can people feel this in their everyday lives, not only have I felt the power of using education as a lever for unlocking value, but we see political landscapes shifting around the world, fundamentally because adults fear at risk that they're not able to live, to manage a good, financially secure life for their families. The second is what we call the sustainable society, which really builds on the firm's experience investing in sustainable brands, and then sustainable infrastructure, both hard infrastructure like environmental services and water, and soft infrastructure like services for diversity and inclusion, ESG, nonprofits, veterans, etc. So I'm very excited to join you all.
Thank you, Justin, for that introduction. Angela, would you like to go next? Oh, I think you're muted, by the way.
Thank you, Serena. I'm still trying to deal with my Zoom challenges. So hi, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Angela. I work with UN Women as a coordination specialist. So UN Women is a specialized agency trying to help women and girls globally. And for the past 10 years, I spent most of my career in the UN system with 3 UN agencies. And my major background is on innovation as well as project management. That includes managing an innovation fund where we provided seed funding to our country offices so that we could do some interesting pilots together, whether tech or non-tech, to accelerate the speed of SDGs. I already learned a lot from our panelists because I'm not specialized in investing sector, but I hope I can bring some experience from the other side of the story, from the perspective of the public sector or the UN. Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. And last but certainly not least, Professor Zhang, Tony, would you like to give a brief introduction?
Yeah, thank you, Serena, for the invitation. And I'm so excited to be able to come here and discuss with all of the distinguished panelists. And I couldn't agree more with what General Secretary has said, that the sustainable investment or sustainable growth is very, very critical for the future of younger generation. And it actually, it's more than that. It also has a huge impact to my generation right now so far. And I'm currently a faculty member at Gibbs College of Business, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And in my career, mainly I spend lots of time conducting the research. What really captured me few years ago, like 4 years ago, when I actually started to teach about the investments, and lots of students ask me this question is the purpose of investment is solely to create the return for the investor? That really stumped me right at the moment, especially when I saw many young students ask this question, right? From an investor point of view, almost in a historical point of view, all of people just want to make the absolute return. However, at this moment, when I think about something not just pure return, but they think about something beyond the return, that's really, really amazing. And later on, I actually was really surprised by that and started looking into what people right now is called a social impact investments. Actually, and very interestingly, just 4 years ago, almost at the same time, the CFA, the Chartered Financial Analysts, Chartered Financial Institute, started focus on in ESG as well, because I am a member of a committee member at the Educational Advisory Group of CFA Chicago. So I had the opportunity to actually to bring everything into this discussion. Now, CFA Europe, CFA England, CFA New York, CFA Chicago, all get together. Now start to bring a huge topic that's called ESG investments. As what Meredith and what Justin has pointed out is, now from the CFA point of view, CFA is the current professional organization for most of the financial professional. When the CFA Institute, the whole association started talking about the ESG, now it really become a big deal. And since that, I spent lots of effort to start it and conducting research over the ESG. What really surprised me to find out that ESG, different from what people has thought, that maybe ESG people were just thinking about this environmental impact. This is just part of the thing. They may say we need to have carbon neutrality. We need to be environmental friendly in terms of investment. Now, actually, a lot of people, it's really skeptical about the social impact investment. They might just think this actually would try to take a balance between the investment return and the social impact. However, based on my research over the past few years, and I actually very confident to be able to say that actually the social impact investment and ESG oriented investment do actually bring what people call a superior return than just purely thinking about the alpha investment without having sustainable impact into consideration, especially into a long term. Now, things move very fast over the past few years. lots of financial professionals, lots of funds, institutions start to focus on the ESG investment, and it become more apparent this is ESG also become a huge factor in terms of investment consideration for the institute or for financial professional, more than just to screen the investment universe. So I think this is topic right now is very, very critical, not just for the younger generation, but also for the generation just like me. Is I have been receiving lots of inquiry, lots of discussion for me to actually try to come up with to convince that this is the case. However, now more and more people believe this doesn't actually need to be convinced. This is just exactly the case. I think right now this is a great thing. I'm very excited to be able to come over here and discuss with all of the great panels, and look forward to share some of my view.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you again to all the panelists for your wonderful introduction. So now I will get into the panel questions for all of you. So first of all, since our audience today is mostly Generation Z students, so mostly high school students or college students, some of them are not super familiar with the ESG world. And I just wanted to take a moment to clarify the difference between impact investing and ESG. I know, Justin, you did touch on this a little bit, but this is a quote that I found a few weeks ago, and I was just wondering if I could get your guys' opinion on it and whether you agree with this specific definition. It says, impact investing is a subset of ESG that takes things one step further, aiming to generate specific social or environmental benefits as well as financial returns. So do you guys agree with that definition or not, and why?
I'm happy to kick off. So for us at TZP Group, we think about ESG and impact as distinct. It is a spectrum of investing. So the highest level, easiest, most lightweight instantiation of responsible or world positive investing is implementing a responsible investment screen, which is staying away from things that we think collectively are bad for the world. And that could be oil and gas, it could be munitions, it could be drugs and alcohol, it could be pornography. There are a variety of things that we think, capital should not flow to. And there is capital that does flow to these things, but increasingly this is a commonly accepted practice, with more and more categories getting lumped into responsible investment screens. Oil and gas being, sort of top of mind for a lot of public investors about whether they should or should not invest in those areas. Obviously, that's even more complicated with what's happening on the global, in the global.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Do any of the other panelists want to add on to that? Meredith, go ahead.
Well, it's a great question, Serena, and I think of ESG as more in a flat way, more like data, and I think of impact investing as sort of a more active, intentional, targeted strategy for a portfolio. I work on a different kind of investment activity that I also believe has impact, rather than just looking at just sort of how your X number of dollars invested perhaps in a community or in a housing project or in positive, lowering carbon emissions. I look at part of investing is also that has impact is what we call engaging, which I mentioned earlier, but using your investment power to hold the companies accountable in your portfolio for these good impacts that Justin was talking about, holding companies accountable to not only provide important rates of return, which we need in order to provide retiree health and pension benefits, but also to bring about the behavior of these companies that we're investing in that impact multi-stakeholders. So that how is a company like Amazon, let's take Amazon, affecting not only, it's number 2 in your portfolio, most of your portfolios, if you were in a portfolio, or number 2 in most sort of aggregated kinds of mutual funds. And it's also the second largest employer, at least in the US, and I don't know how it ranks around the world. But here is a company that investors are now engaging with through their asset ownership, meaning that they've invested in the company, and really pressing them to bring about lowered health and safety practices. They're concerned about surveillance of workers. They're concerned about how the company is affecting other retail companies in adopting workplace practices that could have adverse impact on workers. And also there is the fight to not recognize and give freedom of association to workers. So for me, I think impact investing is not just sort of how you're directly directing and targeting money into targeted outcomes, but also how you're using your asset ownership in really holding companies accountable. I think of ESG more as not as so much a strategy as a collection of data that helps inform you to understand the environment, social, and governance impacts that your activities may have, but it for me is not a standalone activity.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Meredith, and apologize everyone. I was double booked tonight for the SIIS, so I have the other panelists trying to get me onto their panel. So I will stay as long as I can on this one, and then we can always catch up online if there are further questions. But just finishing my my comments. Responsible investment screens are commonly accepted. ESG is more novel, but becoming increasingly a standard. And I'd agree with how Meredith characterized it. The best way to think about the distinction between ESG and impact is really a financial concept. And it's a comment on the distinction between alpha and beta. Beta being the risk inherent to a business, and alpha being the ability to generate outsized financial outcomes. ESG is really best thought about as a toolkit to de-risk businesses in the medium and long term. In the short term, if you only hold the stock for 1 minute, you don't really care how the business acts. But if you hold the stock, private or public stock, for a long period of time, you would care if they were dumping, for instance, chemicals into a backyard water stream, because that company could be sued. And that's just one example of many. The company didn't have good governance, they weren't treating their employees right. In the medium and long term, those risks really matter. And that's a comment on beta, and really a better way to handicap risk. Alpha is, impact is really about alpha, which is how do you find investment opportunities that other people don't find? Now, most people, even in the impact world, I believe, misunderstand how to really describe why impact is an exciting investment area. Impact is really best understood not from a marketing perspective, using buzzwords like sustainability and impact and world positive and things that's sort of easy to do. Anybody can sort of lay claim to those terms. Impact is really, again, an economic concept, and it's really a commentary on who you're serving, which are underserved, marginalized, discriminated, disadvantaged populations that have demand. They want to be served, but there haven't been companies to supply them for one reason or another. And so it's really a commentary on supply-demand imbalance. Take a few examples. One is, in the US context, African Americans who have not had access to financial banking because of either structural discrimination, cultural discrimination, historical legacy. the ability to get an affordable loan really does affect people's lives. So if you notice that, you can find investment companies to serve that population. The environment as a macro end customer has also been underserved. We as our populations around the world have really underappreciated the externalities associated with operating our daily lives, our companies, our states. And because of that, we're feeling the effects. And so it's not hard to imagine impact investing opportunities in that context. Who wants to live among trash? Who wants to drink dirty water or lead laden water? Who wants to have clogged air? And so companies that help address those, that clean rivers, that create sustainable agricultural opportunities, these are good ideas because there's money behind them. People want these things. And so it's really about putting that optic to notice where there is secular demand coming from. A lot of the demand is coming from youth, millennials. So changing consumer habits, the way that we expect our companies and our governments to treat our societies, but it's also coming from capital. And so as you think about the distinction between impact investing and ESG is how every single business should practice. Every business should have good governance. Every business should treat its employees right and its customers and all of its stakeholders right. And if you don't, you have a lot of risk inherent in your business. But impact investing is about noticing something that other people don't notice. And the reason why this is very valuable for this audience, the youth population of the world, is because you see opportunities, you have sensibilities, you have customer habits that other people don't have. And if you notice those habits, those create investable opportunities. How we change our eating habits, how we change our consumer habits. And so these are really good ideas because they allow you to make more money because other people don't see these investment opportunities.
Yeah, I want to make some comments. I see a lot of great points that have been made from the panelists right now here. And I agree with what they have said, most of them. Right now, from my point of view, is that now impact investing is more about an attitude. Is the purpose for the impact investment is actually you are seeking to make the world sometimes like a more social beneficial. It's like I want to see more social goods. The least thing that you will consider about is to create any financial return. Now, different from the impact investment, now the ESG is more becoming more of a rating factors used to categorize like different firms and different industry, how well they actually are positioning into three buckets: environmental, social, and corporate governance. Now, initially, right at the beginning, when ESG concept was pushed out. Now people would mainly just focus on, would this ESG investment would bring any social benefit and also environmental benefit to the whole society. Now at that moment, right at the beginning, is we could see there's a lot of interplay or interaction or share the common understanding behind the ESG investment and impact investments. Now, from a financial industrial perspective, it turned out to be more later on. It's people and also financial professional try to integrate more of an investment strategy into the ESG concept with a goal to achieve both financial return and also risk factor simultaneously. Now, this actually has become almost a major component for many of financial professional as perspective. Now, still, impact investment on the other end, at the moment, what I can continue to see is just fundamentals still remain intact. Is what really people trying to achieve is they can my investments create a social or especially positive social benefit. Party social impact. That's what people really care. Especially, I see more and more of its younger generation, just like millennium and Z generation. What they mainly care is, can actually, for my investment, can I actually make the earth more clean? Can the air maybe become cleaner or fresher, something like that? Now, from the ESG investment point of view, the whole financial industry are actually using it as what Justin just mentioned, as one kind of a risk factors. Now, for different company, for investment, we could rank the companies or corporation with a different ESG rating. But with a poor ESG rating, it doesn't necessarily mean that I will not invest into the company with poor ESG rating. It just used as one of the risk factor for financial, for portfolio manager to be aware that whether this risk factor would have an impact over the financial return. So those are the major difference right now, what I have been seeing. Apparently, ESG investment is a much broader concept right now here. It also has the widest spectrum and continue to evolve and evolve. I think from the UN point of view and from the financial professional association point of view, they all share some common things over there, but the concept keep evolving. So that's what I'm seeing.
Hey, thank you, Tony, for sharing that. So now I want to kind of build off of that. So speaking of actually going back to Justin's point about, in particular, youth being able to see a lot of these investment opportunities, I wanted to ask you guys a few more questions about how youth in particular can start getting involved in ESG and sustainability. So I wanted to start off with Angela, actually, since you know a lot about the SDGs. In the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals are increasingly being recognized as a very beneficial foundation for responsible investment, as the world shifts its focus more intently on ESG. So Angela, since I know you had significant experience in supporting a lot of these SDG related UN initiatives, can you share like your perspectives on how the youth may get involved in promoting and supporting some of these SDG initiatives?
Sure, Serena. Definitely UN is a very good entry point for youth to get involved if you're interested in sustainability, simply because UN is the global leader of SDG goals, and we're also the custodian of SDG indicators. And also for the recent years, I do see an increasing demand or request from the Secretary General to entity level that we should more meaningfully engage youth in the journey of SDG sustainable development. For this, I would suggest you to look at there's a strategy called Youth 2030. It's like an annual framework that many agencies are requested to report now that how they did the youth work, how they engage meaningfully the youth onto the decision or discussion table. And then to start with, maybe I would suggest if you're a student, first check with some iconic UN conferences. For example, the Financing for Sustainable Development Forum, it's an annual forum. From that conference, when you look at the agenda, you can quickly understand what UN is doing or carrying in this field within this year or within the next 5 years. You can quickly have an idea of the trend, the focus, and then also spend some time in reading the panelists like today in the forum, because they are normally coming from the leaders of that sector or practitioners. So you can quickly do a mapping of the key players in this field. So that is one way for you to quickly have a quick idea of what UN is doing on sustainability. And then the second way to understand what UN is doing and connect with what UN is doing with your own work is to try to narrow down your focus on some agencies and on some special UN initiatives. For example, if you're interested in trade, maybe you can look at UNCTAD. It's a trade organization focusing with a lot of focus on financing for sustainability. If you're interested in private sector, then you can look at a UN Global Compact. If you're interested in particular region like Asia Pacific, then you can look at the regional commissions like ASCAP, or in Europe, ECE, because they're focusing on regional economic development. And they also have a lot of information on investment on sustainability. And then also look at some iconic initiatives like UN Environment. They have a finance initiative, very good program, focusing on mobilizing private funding for SDGs, as well as UNDP. They have also a sustainable finance hub. They're offering a lot of packages to private sectors and the governments, speed up the financing spectrum. So all this, with your narrow down focus, then you can start envision yourself how you can get more in-depth involvement into UN action. And then I would suggest maybe you start with your individual level. You can look at the recruitments like UN volunteers. They have a lot of short-term assignments that you can support if you find a good match with your profile. And then interns, consultancies, and the job recruitments. Just apply because there are tons of opportunities. You just need to spend some time and then finish your application. If you are running a youth-led organization, like Investing Club, etc., then I would suggest you to learn from Serena to help co-organize a side event to a major conference like today. This will build up your credibility in this field, and this will also help you grow your network. So after you've done all these efforts, you may end up sitting on the decision-making table of a UN major drafting process of a UN major resolution process, and you can voice for your own community and be a change there.
Thank you, Angela, for those suggestions. I don't know if any of the other panelists do you guys have any other suggestions? Go ahead, Meredith.
Yeah, Angela, that was an incredible list of opportunities. I wish I could catalog them all. I was going to also mention, related to the UN, you might look at the Principles for Responsible Investment, UNPRI. They have a number of very good educational materials on ESG investing, on impact, and also on different asset classes. So if you're thinking, well, how do I understand the difference between private equity and public equity, and different strategies and different sectors. They specialize in different sectors. It's really a very good, and it also is a reporting framework where you can look at reports of companies that are based on the UNPRI principles. This is where investors have committed to I think it's like 6 principles for investing and for asset stewardship. I wanted to say, for those of you in the audience who are not familiar with SDGs, there's, I think, 17, right? Serena, Angela, 17 SDGs. So these are topics that, for you, if you're in college or in high school, they run the gamut from, workplace equity, healthcare, taxation, very fundamental issues, and see what is your passion, and then sort of dig in on the sustainable development goals, and how if you're interested in healthcare, or you're interested in COVID and what's going on, or health and safety, and whatever your passion is, you can follow this continuum that Angela talked about in terms of the issue. I would also say that for those of you who are either in new communities or still in at your where you grew up, there are social justice organizations, social justice committees in most of the faith-based organizations in your community, and they are really focused on a lot of the SDG issues that we're talking about. I mean, I think that what Justin and Tony said is ESG is now embedded everywhere. And I think if you also could think about getting on these leadership organizations like the board of your college, or the board of your community college, or technical or vocational school, it's really important because all of these boards of any of the institutions that you may belong to, any youth institution, United Way, or any of the groups that are in your community, community action organizations have boards, and all the boards are dealing with fundraising or with the monies that they have to invest in, and ESG issues and impact investing is everywhere. So you would be able to see that sustainability is on everyone's agenda. And the last thing I wanted to say is that there are a number of investment organizations that are reaching out to young people in particular, those who are just want to become an investor in your own right. You want to own, some share of some companies. And Tulip Share is an organization that is working to galvanize young people to really rally around certain issues at certain companies. Right now, they're dealing with the big pharmaceutical company Johnson & Johnson on talc. They're dealing with Amazon on health and safety issues. But there are some retail investment opportunities that are totally geared towards young people.
I want to come in and comment a little bit because Angela and Meredith have given great suggestion. And I see a lot of shining points over there. I just want to maybe add a few points that I think still might be covered more from the people, more from the guys who are really trying to get into this investment industry. If you are high school students, now I think mainly the great starting point could be the investment club locally, either in your school or either in your local community. I think where you might see actually lots of corporations are heavily involved into this impact investment. They, like for instance, like company like Microsoft, Apple, they have internal funding to sponsor high school students and also college students to conduct the impact investment. If you have any investment idea or something you want to build up the community service, something like that, then you could actually possibly reach out to those companies locally. There are specific departments within those companies who actually can help you out to make whatever your investment idea come true. And it's very straightforward. I think company like the big S&P 500 companies are willing to do so, and internally and externally. Now, if you are college students, what I've recommended, other than what Meredith and Angela has recommended, to search for the information from the UN side, from also the investment firm side, I was also recommended then you start to look for some class offered by faculty or professor at your school. For instance, at University of Illinois, we do actually offer classes in impact investment and also in ESG investments. I've been developing class for the ESG investments for 2 years. So I know UFI does have the courses related to that. When I actually talk with other colleagues at other universities, they do actually offer courses related to impact investment and ESG investment as well. But maybe the title may not call the impact investment exactly the same thing, but I think many colleges do offer similar concept. They might call different thing. If you are a college student, I think you can start to search for that. And more importantly, I would also maybe provide additional resource for someone who may be at the late stage of their college. For instance, if you are a junior or a senior and are in the financial related major, or if you want to get into the financial industry upon your graduation. Now is, I would suggest the CFA Institute is also a great point with lots of resource, because I'm involved with the ESG development within the CFA Institute. So now CFA Institute does offer a certificate of ESG investment. Now, together or associated with the ESG certificate, the curriculum is very, very extensive and complete, which actually covers from the fundamental of ESG investment, social impact investment, to actually more even quantitative criteria and risk management for you to analyze the company with different ESG characteristics, and maybe try simultaneously create return by bringing the personal or institutional interests into your over investment philosophy. So ESG CFA Institute is also another great resource for you to actually participate. Now, if you are maybe in a graduate school, what I think you can do way more than what I just described. You can even maybe kick off or initiate some kind of research topic within the impact investment and ESG investment by yourself. Because at this stage, many investment firms like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they are actually part of the major driving force behind the ESG investment trend. So they're actually releasing lots of information and also data and tools to actually help the graduate student to conduct the ESG research. For instance, some funds, if you and financial pension funds, they are really ESG oriented. They right now they are conducting heavy recruitment over the students who have ESG research or ESG investment experience. So I think this is right now, it's really a perfect time if you are a graduate student and who have been heavily involved into the ESG research. So that's my point of view to complement what Meredith and Andrea has commented.
Thank you.
I just have something quickly to add to Tony's comments for graduate programs. We do periodically work with master degree programs because some universities, they have capstone projects. So students can earn credits by doing projects with us. This is a great opportunity for collaboration. You can earn credits, but you can also get access to the real world problems. And then another suggestion for young people, I think, is to really leverage the social media a lot to establish your own account, your own channel, whether on TikTok, on Xiaohongshu, or on Douyin. To set up your ESG channel, you can have some briefing series or interview series. I think the best learning happens when you teach the things to others. I think this is a good way for you to be a professional in ESG realm.
Great. I guess, Justin, do you have anything to add? Or you can also talk about pursuing like career opportunities, like young people.
Sure. I'll touch on that, and then unfortunately I have to run to another panel.
No worries.
What I would say is, I lecture a lot at universities. There's a lot of interest by students participating in impact and ESG. Usually it's because the students care about the impact in ESG, and so they know the language, they know the buzzwords, they know all the terms of art, they know lots of brands that they're excited about. What I encourage them to do is, if you're really genuinely interested in getting into impact investing, is to make sure that you are coupling your experience and impact with financial skills. The impact investing has two words: impact and investing. And the investing is operative. Ultimately, the way impact investing works is limited partners give general partners money to invest, and they expect more money back than they provided us. And the ways in which we evaluate those investment opportunities with financial analysis, business analysis, due diligence, and then help our companies grow is fundamental to investing. And so it's as important as understanding where are investment opportunities, where are markets going, who are exciting entrepreneurs, what are trends in the space, with the ability to analyze investments. And so what I'd encourage all the students to do while they're in school is to build out a strong analytical skill set that they can couple with their view on opportunities in ESG and impact. The other thing I'd sort of just generally suggest to everybody, has nothing to do with impact and ESG, is that while you're a student, that's a very special role to play. If you reach out to working professionals, leaders in the industries that you're interested in, oftentimes, not always, but often they will respond to you. They will give you help, guidance, and let you onto opportunities. And so using your time in school to build out a network is just as important as building out the academic skill sets that are important for practicing after school. And in some ways, they're more important because the way investing works is, typically great deals, great entrepreneurs are introduced from one person to another. Capital is introduced from one person to another. Talented professionals are introduced to one person to another, and your ability to form those connections early on for people to think about you for jobs, for opportunities, think about you as a thought leader, is something that you can build really early on. And oftentimes students underappreciate the potential for their careers, that they have to prove themselves, do something before they actually have the ability to reach out. But that's not the case. And, just as an example, Serena reached out to me, she didn't know me, and now I know her. And so, that's a connection that I'm sure she'll have, that we'll have for the rest of our professional careers. And it's a small example of something that you can continue to do in your career. So I'd encourage you to, as you think about impact investing, I'm devoting my career to this domain because I think it's the most important thing I can do. I'd strongly encourage you all to think about why this is an interesting investment area, because you can make money and do good at the same time. And that if you prove to capital that you can make money, that you can find great investments, you can build great companies, you can lead from inside big corporations in world positive domains, more capital and more interest and more resources will gravitate toward you. And so your job is not to be shy, is not to be not to accept the status quo, but to take your special view of the world because of when you were born and the circles that you inhabit and the ways in which you think about the world, and demand change because you see things that are different, new ideas, new investment opportunities, and that should make for a very exciting career for you all. So thank you for inviting me to the panel, and I congratulate you all for taking the time on your weekend to think about impact.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks.
Serena, can I just add one thing to I think Justin's remarks before we move on?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, great. I wanted to mention everything that my co-panelists have said, Angela and Tony, are just really inspiring. And I wanted to speak to the students that may not just be heading towards an investment business career around impact or the SDG goals, that there are other career avenues that are that do have impact, and also get at some of the same end states. And so some of them are around advocacy. There are a lot of advocacy roles with nonprofits and with NGOs, with interest groups, labor groups, working groups, grassroots organizing around issues that have economic and financial impact that are totally related to bringing about the kinds of change we're concerned about with the SDGs. And all of those organizations are going to need the skills that students have. But there are other ways that complement and so that think of investing in a broader sense, not technically investing, but also thinking about it as bringing your skills to bear in an advocacy way, or you may bring your undergraduate and graduate and high school skills to public policy. There's a lot of legislation in the US and there's a lot of legislation in the worldwide right now around SDG type issues, around ESG. The EU has a huge project where they're going to mandate all the companies in the EU have to report on non-financial matters, so that it'll be both climate change and then the whole range of human capital management, workplace issues, diversity. In the US, there's a movement on climate change and racial justice. So there's a lot of public policy work that also involves an understanding of more than impact investing, of ESG issues and impact, that really do need your skills as well. And so in school, Tony's like our resident scholar here for for giving advice, but I think it was a great idea to talk about looking, it is a hard college to find right now, or even community college that doesn't have sustainability courses in them. And as we mentioned, all of these leadership positions have sustainability on the agenda. It's a very competitive field right now, and they're hiring like crazy. So it's a perfect time for everyone. But please know that you can bring your analytics skills, your economics, your finance, your political science skills to bear in these different venues, and really still impact capital markets and local, community values.
I second what Meredith is saying. Right now, the financial industry are hiring or recruiting the students with ESG capability crazy. It's like we receive a lot of inquiry from even my past students to say, hey, have I have any student to recommend it to their firms or to their funds? Right now, they are investing heavily because from their point of view is they also receive huge inquiry or push from their limited partners or their investor to get into this space. So I think this right now is a great time for younger generation to get your fruit into this ESG investment domain or space.
Yeah, that's definitely very true. I've definitely seen, like, even amongst at the University of Virginia, I've definitely seen also a lot more like the push towards like sustainability in some of our courses and some of the jobs that are posted on like Handshake and other apps that we use to find jobs. But yeah, and not to cut you all off because this was a great discussion, but we are running a little bit behind because I know I did promise for students, potential youth ambassador candidates, to be able to present their proposals on ESG and SDGs and get a bit of feedback from you guys. So I would like to delve into that. The first presenter is Angeline Yao. She'll be presenting a presentation on carbon neutrality. Angeline, hold on, give me a moment, Angeline. I have to let you unmute. Okay. Angeline, you should be able to unmute now and you should be able to share your screen, but if not, let me know and I'll get that fixed. And thank you for joining us today.
Got it. Thank you. Before I start, I just want to thank the panelists for your great insight. Thank you for your advice. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? Great. All right. Panelists and students, every person here today wants to win. However, in the past, humankind's drive to win has led to greed, pollution, and eventually the destruction of our planet. But there is a solution. We can win sustainably. I bring to you Youthium plus Carbon Neutral campaign and competition. Thank you for giving me the platform to introduce my proposal. My campaign has 3 missions. 1, spread the awareness of carbon neutrality and sustainability to children and adults. 2, promote cross-generation communication and collaboration when approaching problems. And 3, encourage the youth to be creative and critical through competition. So what exactly is the campaign and competition? My proposal will utilize youthium.org and its network to create a competition for the youth to interview role models about the topics of sustainability and carbon neutrality. More on the specifics of the competition. Participants will submit a video or essay featuring the interview. Impactful submissions will be selected and showcased on Youthium's website. And lastly, a summary campaign video and written review will be submitted to the Youth Ambassador Program. By now, many of you are wondering what Youthium is. Youthium.org is an innovative online platform featuring educational and entertaining content for kids. Youthium was created in 2020 as a place for the youth to share ideas, participate in activities, and publish original works. Last year, Youthium received more than 1,000 visitors and participants. The online platform was founded and run by youth and has collaborated on projects with organizations such as Purdue University. Now, why I am promoting Youthium? Well, because I founded it and I am currently running the organization. Other highlights about me are I am my junior high student council president, I am a public speaker and awarded debater, I am a National Art Awards winner, and of course, I'm very passionate about sustainability. Now that you know about the Youthium plus Carbon Neutral campaign and competition, here is a detailed action plan of the steps we will take. We are already in the process of building and launching the competition, which we plan to open next week. The next step is getting the word out. I propose to advertise through Youthium and YEFA. We have already raised awareness through topics and videos on SDGs, which you can find on the youthium.org website. We plan to close the competition at the end of May. Winners will receive certificates and be showcased on Youthium. I will create a campaign video featuring winning clips and a written review. This will be my submission to YAP. Lastly, I want to encourage students and youth who are interested in sustainability to be a part of this campaign and competition. As a member of the YEFA community, you are empowered to speak out on global issues such as carbon neutrality. Plus, who doesn't like to win? Thank you. Panelists, do you have any questions?
I might want to go first. Andrea, I think your proposal is great, and the idea to having a competition or campaign a competition together with all of your friends and colleagues at your age is amazing. I'm very impressed that you can actually come up with such an idea. And most of the time, if you look at the college perspective, like we don't even have a campaign or competition at a college level. At least from my field, I haven't seen any college to host a campaign or challenge just to focus on the ESG and carbon neutrality, because this is a topic is so important, which actually has caused the attention from many stakeholders within our society. I think it's very, very great. So that's my comment. But I do have a question here. Is like, how would you actually guarantee the quality of maybe the presentation, and also how would you actually guarantee the contents that maybe the high school students are able to create? Did you actually provide any resource for them?
Well, right now we already have some SDG topics and videos on the website, and we encourage them to look on UN's website and learn for themselves about SDGs and carbon neutrality. We will always also go through a process of selecting the best interviews to showcase on the website, which I will also submit to the Youth Ambassador Program.
Sounds very interesting.
Thank you.
I had a question I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what would make a good interview on carbon neutrality and SDGs, like what, it is a competition, so is it that because you talked a lot about intergenerational and sort of would it be that the person sort of helped facilitate an understanding of the importance, or what makes a good interview?
Well, I would also include that some adults, of course, like many people, are ignorant of some of these issues. And I believe a great interview is just deriving the most, I guess, most progress or just insightful information on the opinions or the insights of adults and children alike, whether this be ignorance and then learning more about this topic, or it's a professional who is very familiar in this field and is sharing information to the person who is interviewing, and of course also to us. Then I think these are both ideas that we will continue to look into and will definitely think about during the selection time.
Great, thank you.
My question is actually similar to Meredith. I see this PowerPoint is great, but I do feel it's process oriented. I'm not very quite clear about your end goal, what benefit or impact this process will generate. But I think you answered the question by answering Meredith.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Great. There are no other questions left, then we can now move into our second presentation. Thank you, Angeline, for the amazing presentation. And I hope the questions were helpful for your thought process.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the panelists.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the Eco Furnishings team. They're going to be talking to us about global warming and public school funding. I'm not sure which one of you is presenting today though. Could one of you maybe message me and let me know so I can give you co-host access? Justin, is it you? I believe you were on the, okay. Not. Okay, so here it goes. Okay. Let me give you guys access then. Hold on. Okay, Hercules, you should have access to sharing permissions. You can start sharing and I will. Oh, okay. Okay. Is it working for you now, Hercules?
Oh, hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Also, could you give access to Justin Wong and Chris E, because they were also gonna be talking today. So
Okay, you guys should all be co-hosts, so you can unmute yourselves and share your screen.
sorry, I'm sharing from my phone, so please give me a sec.
Okay, no worries. Is everything going all right, Hercules? Because if not, we are.
Yeah, sorry. For some reason, it's not connecting.
Okay, well, if not, we are kind of behind schedule. So if not, I'm probably gonna have to ask the next person.
Wait, so, yeah, actually, could you just give the access to my like Hercules John so I can share from my computer?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Can everyone see? Oof. So, slideshow. Oh, here. Can everyone see? Great. So, yes, we will start now.
So we're a group of 3 high school students with a great passion for environmental sustainability, and eco-furnishings is our business concept that hopes to alleviate construction waste around the world and inefficient public school funding. Now, Christopher, you can get us started.
I'm Christopher Yee, a freshman at Scarsdale High School from New York.
And I'm Justin Wang, a sophomore at Lambert High School in Atlanta, Georgia.
And I'm Hercules John, a sophomore at Georgetown Day High School from Washington, D.C. Welcome to Eco-Furnishings.
By 2025, annual construction waste is expected to reach 2.2 billion tons, with almost 30% of it going to waste. Our team has identified the mismanagement of waste to be one of the greatest contributors towards the ongoing global warming crisis. Most timber waste is disposed of via burning, which releases significant amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Public school funding is another issue that we've identified. Currently, the US underfunds its public K-12 schools by $150 billion each year, and this impacts over 30 million children's access to a proper education.
Enter Eco-Furnishings. We've capitalized upon the inexpensive nature of construction waste to produce affordable wood furniture items needed in classrooms for underfunded public schools in the US.
At Eco-Furnishings, our mission statement is to produce affordable, eco-friendly furniture, thereby helping reduce environmental detriment while also addressing public school funding issues. We will be established as a limited liability company headquartered in Austin, Texas, because the current demographic trends in the area hold strong potential for both plentiful resources in the form of construction waste, as well as a large market to sell to.
We plan to target underfunded schools around the world. There are roughly 98,000 public schools in the US alone and 50.7 million students in need of proper classroom equipment to reach their academic goals. With the furniture market growing at a rate of 5.1% annually, our furniture will always be in demand.
Due to the inexpensive nature of construction waste, Eco-Furnishings is able to sell at a lower price while still making a good amount of profit. Here, we've identified each of Eco-Furnishings' major competitors and competencies in price and eco-friendliness. Easygoing and Verco produce inexpensive furniture, but are supplied from non-environmentally friendly sources, while Ashley Home Store furniture is far too expensive.
In addition to being environmentally sustainable, our furniture is also unique in that it is made up of wood particle board and aluminum. Not only is particle board much more cost efficient and lighter than hardwood, but it also requires minimal maintenance and has better screw holding capacity.
Eco-Furnishing's start-to-finish manufacturing process contains 3 distinct stages: collection, sorting, and production. We first collect raw construction waste from sites in order to gather our resources. Next, we sort this waste in order to remove unwanted materials. Finally, we produce our furniture.
The US furniture market is worth about $65.8 billion each year. Furthermore, we have streamlined our target down to the US school furniture market, which is worth approximately $2 billion each year. We're confident that within 5 years, we will be able to capture 2.6% of this market share, giving us an annual revenue of $52 million each year.
Overall, Eco-Furnishings will have a profit margin of 50%. This is after considering all of the costs associated with production. Additionally, our desk will retail at $100 per unit.
In year 1, we will advertise and collect funds around the US. Operations will commence after we pass $500,000 in funding, which is projected to happen halfway through the first year. By the end of year 2, we will have started a joint production with Caltech's Chemical Engineering Department, selling an approximate 4,000 desks in the process. With years 3 and 4, we plan to optimize our production and marketing. We predict that the school districts around the country will start buying our product as demand for our inexpensive furniture will be high. In years 5 and 6, our business plans on expanding into international markets.
We conducted in-depth analysis for construction waste statistics in different regions. For instance, we found that the EU generates more than 45 million tons of construction waste annually, with 75% of it being landfilled. We will capitalize upon this opportunity and expand globally. We project that we will have a total revenue of $50 million with a net income of $25 million, in which more than 500,000 furniture units are sold.
Eco-furnishings provides the bridge to protecting our world's environment and education. Protect the environment, promote education, and pick eco-furnishings. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for that great presentation. As for the panelists, do you guys have any questions or any general feedback?
I'm happy to go first. I think this idea is very interesting to me. What I have general question is to comment from maybe from a faculty point of view. I love to see some student coming up with some business idea just like eco-furnishing. However, especially because I'm in a business faculty and especially a finance faculty, so I'm very sensitive about the financial from your idea. Any business without economic sounding financial could turn out to be maybe just a pure idea. So here comes my question. As we know that for the eco-furnishing, apparently right from the beginning, you need some production capacity. How would you actually create that production capacity? That's the question one. And question number two is, I do see that you're saying there will be a period to make some collection. Now the question is, how are you going to finish that collection of wasted wood, right? They're basically saying that you have to collect all of the materials and then put it into production. Now the third question is, I do love your aspiration to be able to sell like a 40,000, I think it's a 40,000, right? Dollar about the DAX, maybe by the end of this year. This is very interesting. How are you going to achieve that goal? So those are my three questions.
Could you repeat the first one again? It kind of got lost.
Yeah, the first one is, how are you going to actually create the manufacturing or production capacity? Is it going to be in the US or is it going to be overseas?
Well, we're planning to be headquartered in Austin, Texas, because the demographic trends in the area, there's like strong population growth in the area, which translates to increased construction and therefore construction waste in the area. So first of all, we're planning on being based there. And also there's lower taxes in the state of Texas, which is another factor. But we're also, for manufacturing, we're planning on partnering with Caltech's Chemical Engineering Department in order to create the desks. And for manufacturing, it's pretty standard. Like we're just gonna follow the industry leaders in furniture and just mirror their production methods.
Yeah, I can understand that. But however, you do need a plan. You do need a PP&E, right? Equipment. I can see you can maybe manufacture one of the sample decks by partnering with the Caltech. However, when you say you want to make it a business, you do need to raise the capital initial investment to build the plant or something like that. Either you outsource the manufacturing to a plant or either you build a plant by yourself. For instance, like Tesla, you do need a super manufacturer, right? Gigafactory here to produce car. Similarly, you do need a manufacturer to produce the desk, whatever that is, where are you going to do that? Are you going to do it in the US or are you going to do it overseas?
So as for funding, we've identified 6 possible organizations that we could reach for financial support and partnerships. And for manufacturing, our production process, we first take the recycled wood and produce particle wood out of that and use that to make furniture. So we will possibly outsource our manufacturing for the particle wood and furniture overseas, but we will obtain the construction waste in the US.
Okay. The second question is how are you going to achieve your goal right at the beginning? Where are you, how are you going to sell your desk to the local college or university, right? Or schools? How are you going to sell it?
So in
yeah.
the, I think her.
Go ahead. Okay, yeah, I'll go. So, because we're using construction waste, and which means that our desk will be cheaper, but at the same time, the quality won't go down. And so by comparison, for those schools who are underfunded, then our desks will be their first choice. And because we have the quality, well, at the same time, they could get more desks from us, well, compared to other companies.
I like the concept. Have you actually spoken with any people who doing the procurements or purchasing at school?
Well, we have not done that yet, but we believe this will be the next step we would take. And also, as we said, my teammate Justin said before, that with this our 6 potential partners we will get from there, we will also try to set up partnerships and maybe to have to maybe make businesses from their side and with the connection.
Okay.
I have 2 quick comments. Were you finished, Tony? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
Meredith,
okay.
yeah.
Very great presentation, very interesting. I think if you could pull the BAC's information up front about the waste and a little bit more of the business case around the environment and waste and, you know, what happens for these landfills. I think that would just be, you have it in the very back, but it'd be great to see it up front. And then if you could also just talk more about the partners as investors or however it is you envision it up front, I think that would also help piece it together. So, and then Tony, with Tony's pieces, I think you'll have, a full-fledged piece. And Andrew Lynn, I didn't get a chance to tell you that I thought your presentation was really great too. I just jumped into a question, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that as well. Thanks, Serena. I just had comments, not questions.
Yeah, I also have some comments to share. I want to say I really like your idea. I'm a fan of your idea, but Tony gave me a lot of more like thoughts to see the feasibility of your idea. I think Justin, you mentioned about transport or supply chain. I do feel that even during or after the pandemic, the global supply chain has been affected a lot. So my friends who bought furniture, they cannot get the furniture even within a year or so. And so you have to take into consideration of the what is going on here and find some solutions. And the other suggestion is I'm really interested in look at your the mapping of your competitors. To see, I wonder if there's a market that in this market you already have some competitors doing the same thing as you do. That's just my curiosity. Given the time, I don't know if you have time to answer, but I really like your idea. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions or comments, then let's move on to the next one. The next presenter will be Meghana Madhurakavi. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. She's going to be giving us a presentation on ESG and the SDGs. Meghana, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Yep. So hello, everyone. My name is Meghana Madhurakavi, an 8th grader from New Jersey. I want to start off by thanking everyone, especially Serena and the panelists, for this opportunity. My plan is to use a business under the name of Illuminate to promote spreading the light of knowledge. A major problem in many people is that they're not educated, especially around the world. I've established multiple connections in countries such as India, Colombia, and the Middle East, New York's Microsoft, and more. We will use these places along with more to educate underprivileged youth. We can start a system of producing sustainable items from international countries where passionate and talented hires help transport goods around the world. Having distribution sites can cut the cost of shipping, which is a major flaw in fast fashion. Many people turn to fast fashion as it is cheaper, but having these distribution sites will not lower the quality, but instead lower the cost. I plan to use the psychology of consumer versus company and to use technology to beat emissions made by technology. So we all know what ESG and SDG are. So far, many companies are realizing the value and importance of becoming carbon zero. As in the diagram on the right, it explains the ESG scores, which has become a major improvement in many companies. As I experimented with these topics, I surveyed many students, and about 90% of them had no idea what these goals were. This was a shockingly disappointing amount for me, as I thought it was more natural to discuss these topics, but it sparked a discovery. We must make a major change, not only with businesses, but also with children who will grow up as the next generation which will be the people who must improve our earth. Clubs and nonprofits are a great way, but we have potential to do more. We must not only inspire change, but we must make a change. With consumer versus company psychology, as someone sees the child's blood that was used to create fast fashion fabric, as someone sees the carbon emitted into the atmosphere when energy is wasted, and when someone sees the impact of ecosystems being destroyed, they're more likely to step back and step away from organizations increasing these problems and look into sustainable solutions like us. Here's a simple timeline of how events are starting to occur. When we, the buyers, lean towards sustainable items, the business knows it will do better because it needs to follow our satisfactional needs, thus improving their ethical systems. When this system is improved, it attracts hard workers and talent, which raises the company's strengths. As listed, there are many things we can do, such as eating healthier, which brings me to the topic of soil. Soil is something which is the base and foundation of everything we eat. Plants grow from soil, and the plants are what take in the carbon dioxide we emit. And I think this is like a really important thing that we need to educate people on. And we can do this by not only using companies, but also using youth to inspire change. After all, everyone wants to keep up, right? To move on to technology, we must take advantage of our advancements and use them for good. Blockchain technology, 5G, IoT, and AR and VR are great examples. This will make sure that future endeavors that we use with technology are in the best and most rapid way to see change. For example, Hawaii reports that, the company, by the way, reports that nearly half of the energy consumption of 4G-based solutions is used to cool down not even the transfer of data, but equipment. So I want to give an example here. If there's a project manager who has to fix a problem in a factory, they won't have to visit this factory personally anymore. They can use AR and VR technology to communicate the solution with the mechanic and use less transmission of carbon. These technologies contribute to becoming carbon neutral, and I believe we can use them to develop even larger scale systems. And this all starts with education. We all know that other countries, and specifically farming-based countries, have more healthier soil. And I think we should use that as sort of an influence for us, like water purifiers. And did you know that solar panels actually have roughly 20 times less coal-powered electricity sources? I just found that like super interesting. I have to add that in there. Using artificial intelligence to analyze agricultural data like soil moisture and pesticide levels at a rapid speed is very impactful in our food, because whatever grows in soil goes into our body, which can impact future generations too. And I just want to say that as a member of the growing youth, I'm here to say that we must do anything and everything to protect our home, our lives, and our future. There's no planet B and there's no second chance. We must understand the effects of our actions. Because if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? That's one of my favorite quotes. Thank you.
Thank you, Meghana. That was super inspiring. I really like that quote that you said at the end. So to our panelists, do you guys have any comments or questions?
Maybe I will go first again one more time. As what Serena say, I also love the quote at the end. And actually, this this idea is more from creating an educational tool for youth to understand the ESG impact for their society. Am I right, Meghana?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that a lot of people internationally don't have access to education, and that is not their fault, which is what I think we need to use this tool to make it more available to them.
Got it. How would you actually start, or to be another more specific questions, where did you plan or envision to jumpstart this idea? You mentioned about multiple country international like India. Did you plan to start to push the tools in India? Did you plan to actually launch this tool in the US, or to any idea?
Yeah, thank you. So basically in India, we actually had an event where we sort of raised funds. We raised $6,000 through dancing and talent shows to raise more awareness for sustainability and more awareness for these soil and these education systems that we can improve in India. So we plan to use this in other countries. For example, Colombia, we established a connection through like Microsoft actually has been helping. And I just think it's like a really important thing to do.
Very good, very good. So I would actually suggest that you maybe just focus on one region at the beginning. Don't jump into multiple countries, because going a different country with different cultural background, their understanding of ESG or the tolerance of ESG apparently very dramatically or even significantly. You might not want to deal too many things just right at the beginning. I think getting a focus is very useful and critical.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. There's actually this organization, this company that's been very popular in India called SustainCart, and they're basically producing very sustainable items, household items to clothing even, and like even gift items. And that was kind of my inspiration for this, because but their items are significantly not as cheap as they could be. So I just wanted to use distribution sites in the US to make it cheaper.
Very good.
Oh, Meredith, I think you're
I'm
muted.
sorry. So I just thank you very much. That was very, very interesting and inspiring. I wanted to ask you, is the soil, is that one of the main educational topics or issues, or do you have a few that are sort of that you're using to bring out the SDG? Because I heard you sort of go into it a number of times, but I wasn't sure if it was your big focus.
Right. So soil is a very like cultural aspect in many countries. And I think that since it's the foundation, it should be a huge example or starting point to teaching sustainability, because whatever we emit into the air is something that the soil is, it's like a very important foundation for the soil, because even a handful of soil contains more bacteria than even like a whole country. Like the life source of soil is something that if youth can understand, they're more likely to be inspired to start a change.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. I really like this idea also. And especially you already covered so many topics. You're already expert on ESG now. I'm just wondering, I have two questions. First is, what is your end product? What does it look like? I still don't get it. And second is, yeah, the second question is depending on the first question, because you mentioned like young or children in, for example, in least developing countries, they also deserve a chance to learn about this. So how would you deliver your results?
Great. So I want to, at least this 90% number that I surveyed was in America. So I don't even like, I want to imagine what the number would be in third world countries, right? Developing countries. So I think that my end goal is definitely to just life by life change the thought process and the views and the goals of these children. I want to make sure that they know in the future they can make the change too. A lot of people, as I've seen, I've visited many villages in India and I've asked them, and a lot of people think they are dependent on countries like America to make a change for them. And I want to change that. I want them to believe that they can make a change for themselves too. So my end goal is to at least like to inspire multiple people to do so.
How do you motivate them through, how do you create your training or education products? What does the products look like?
Right. So I want to show them what it's like to produce non-sustainable items, because once they see this, it could spark a change in them.
How do you show them?
So I would show them, showing them data and showing them charts, and even personally interviewing more SDG experts on how fast fashion is produced and how soil is like destroyed with tilling and with pesticides. So we can do this by touring farms personally around their area, taking them on these field trips and hands-on experiences to show them what the world is truly like and how they can change it.
So it's like a blended format. You have maybe have some online resources together with physical visits, missions, tours, etc. Like education programs.
Yeah, perfectly said. So we have like multiple connections in these areas so that we don't have to personally go every single time, so that we can sort of make more of a connection through various people and various organizations, so that it's not only us, but also other nonprofits contributing to it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Meghana. Now we will be moving on into our last presentation for today. So this one is by Michelle Ding, but unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, she was currently flying back. She attended the Diamond Challenge Summit at the University of Delaware and actually just received the Innovation Sprint Best Pitch Award there. So unfortunately, she cannot join us live, but she did send me her pre-recorded video, which I can play for you all now. Yeah, so that will be our last presentation for today. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, cool.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle, and today I'll be presenting Mindstones, a youth mental health app. This is a semifinals project under the University of Delaware's Diamond Challenge and is a group effort, so special thank yous to my teammates Sophie, Tiffany, and Julianne. Now, on the screen here, you can see 4 different teams from 4 different states. Although on the surface, they seem happy, these teams all have one thing in common. To their loved ones, they lived normal lives, but on the inside, they had suffered a mental battle for far too long, eventually leading to their untimely deaths. This presentation is dedicated to them and everyone who didn't make it. Now, today, I will be covering 2 primary SDGs, good health and well-being, and quality education. While most people think of health as being physical, mental well-being is also part of this category, and that's a fact that has been ignored for far too long. It is especially crucial to address this problem in schools where students constantly struggle with issues like stress, anxiety, depression, and more. These problems are increasingly more common as 1 in 5 teens suffer from a mental illness. Mental illness causes young adults to neglect their health, education, and relationships. This is detrimental, but many still choose to hide their struggles, meaning the current system is not working. Are we losing a battle we must win? As mental health becomes more widespread, treatments for them should be too. That's why my team created Mindstones, an engaging young adult mental health app integrating wellness activities with immersive gameplay and peer-to-peer chatting. As the internet has become more prominent, teens prefer anonymous web-based resources rather than in-person ones. This makes Mindstones the perfect solution to cater to these younger audiences. Each person's progress is monitored with personalized wellness activities listed here, which increase awareness of our thoughts and behaviors. Besides these activities, there's also a game linked to 4 stones, each representing a different pillar of mental health. Everyone has their own virtual pet to assist them in their quest. The end goal is to acquire these stones by defeating enemies in gameplay designed to help achieve a healthy mental state. Now, how does the pet train? Well, as shown in this diagram, after the pet completes a task, the user is given rewards that help level it up. Afterwards, they can choose to grow their pet or enhance its battle abilities. Then, by defeating enemies, they progress on level map towards whichever stone they're aiming for. By repeating this process, each with different tasks and enemies, the user eventually acquires all 4 stones. So, now moving on to our finances. 3 primary costs are covered in the first 2 months, as can be seen here. $40,000 goes to the psychologist portion, as professional help is important for general mental illnesses, therefore we do provide it. Game development is a really big part of the app, so it'll also cost $40K. Finally, since the website framework is designed to be simple and easy to navigate for users, software engineering really only needs $20,000. This brings the total initial development cost to $100K. After these initial costs, there are a few ongoing expenses for continuous growth. While most will be for game improvement, they will also cover marketing, psychologists, IT support, and server leasing. On the left is this business evolution path. After upfront research and development, ongoing enhancement is where the IT support team will fix bugs and update the software monthly. Next, the app will be marketed and licensed to schools for expansion, all while the app continues to grow and improve over time. On the right is the funding and marketing strategy. The initial seed capital will be acquired from family and friends. Following initial development, the first customers and their investors will help even further. For marketing, local schools will be provided free trials to start off. Due to the network effect, after they gain value from Mindstones, its popularity will spread. Additional advertising will be done on social media and elsewhere. Now, our revenue and profit. These are the revenue projections for the next few years. With consistent growth, more education systems will be reached and the licensing fee will adjust for inflation. By year 8, expected that 25% of around 25,000 American high schools will be reached, with an annual profit of around $12 million. Some strengths in our SWOT analysis here includes the ability to appeal to teens as it's designed by the same type of people the app is marketed to. Unfortunately, because of a lack of experience in app development, it's difficult to jumpstart the process, especially with the current low funds. However, Mindstones is able to address health issues earlier than other services, giving it a head start to earning FDA approval. A primary threat is the ability to prevent the wrong people from accessing the app. Luckily, it's designed to only be accessible by students through individually provided school emails, and further security measures will be added as we progress with the app. Mental illness is serious. We've all seen firsthand how pressures of school, social media, body image, and etc. detriment our loved ones. As an aspiring mental health app, Mindstones will improve habits and strengthen relationships. A healthy individual leads to a strong community, and therefore a strong community leads to a better world. And of course, I wouldn't have been able to put this together without my team. Sophie as our current CEO, Julianne the CFO, Tiffany our COO, and finally me as the CTO. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and thank you for supporting Mindstones.
So like I said, unfortunately, she couldn't join us live today, but if any of the panelists have a few comments you want to make, feel free to go ahead.
I think the idea is quite inspiring and very beneficial to create the social goods for a certain group of people. And I actually love that idea.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
I thought it was also very, very, very interesting. I was interested in understanding the role of the high school in sort of sending it out. It would be very interesting to understand better the partnership, the role of the psychologists, and also whether the gaming would have to be continually upgraded as students have sort of gotten through the whole pathway. It's the only way I can describe. I'm sure the students who are here online have much better understanding, but I think it's very interesting, but understanding more of the relationship between the public-private partnership might be helpful.
Thank you.
I have a question and also a feedback. My question is, maybe it was mentioned that I missed, is the licensing fee is charged from where? From student or from school? That I don't know. If from students, I think that's not easy, I guess. I don't know. And then the feedback is, I think psychology or mental support is a very professional realm. It has benefit, but also a lot of risks. If your intervention is not professional, that will create a lot of risks. I would suggest the team to engage or discuss with more teams like this when they roll out. The teams rolling out mental support help apps, etc., and see how they accomplish all those mitigate all those risks. Because my understanding is each program needs to have multiple cycles of iterations before it goes to market. I think this is something they need to consider.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I'll make sure to pass that on to her. Okay, well, unfortunately, it is 10:22, so this is the end of our session today, but thank you all for joining us. I know I learned a lot from this panel. I hope everyone else on the call did as well. And thank you again to our panelists for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. I really appreciated all the time you took to share so many of your great insights. And yeah, thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day or night.
Thank you very much. And I really enjoyed discussing with all of you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the presenters. Thank you, my dear panelists. Bye.